Hello, everyone. Okay, so on October 17th of this year, Canada will be legalizing marijuana. And with the legalization, there were some laws passed. Bill C-46 and Bill C-45 is the law that legalized marijuana. Bill C-46 is the law that made amendments to different rules regarding driving and sale of marijuana to make it legal to sell marijuana and to make it legal to transport it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So today we're going to look at how will the drug driving rules actually work, because I think they're really seriously flawed. Number one, I think they won't stand up in a court of appeal once they're tried. Number two, and number three, I want you to be protected because there is a way to protect yourself if you live in Ontario. I can't talk to other provinces because I don't really. It took me all day to get the information I've got now, digging through all sorts of opinion pieces and et cetera. So this information is accurate for Ontario. The rest of Canada, please look into it yourself, and the link will be in the description as well to have a look at your province's laws specifically. But again, I really had to do digging to find this. So be aware. Be aware of what laws are governing you. Be aware of what the government is doing, because we have to abide by the laws that they pass. There's no use complaining about it after. We have to abide by the laws that they pass. It's that simple. And if they pass bad laws, then people are going to get thrown in jail and it's going to suck. And it may get overturned by the Supreme Court, but you don't want to be the sucker who gets thrown in jail while that's being decided. Okay, so Bill C-46, quote, to the Globe and Mail article that is linked in the description. Bill C-46, the proposed changes to impaired driving laws, sets out a specific limit for the amount of THC, the main psychoactive ingredient in cannabis, that you can legally have in your blood while driving. What you'll be charged with depends on how many nanograms of THC you have per milliliter of blood within 2 hours of driving. They're saying, quote, you shouldn't be driving with any cannabis in your body, but there's a difference between low and high levels, so we won't treat low levels in a criminal fashion, but there will still be a punishment, Marie said. So they're acknowledging that 2 nanograms of THC per 100 milliliters of blood would not impair most people, but they're punishing you with up to a $1,000 fine anyway. So that's strange. Back to the article, 2 nanograms. If you have 2 nanograms but less than 5 nanograms, you would face a summary conviction and up to a $1,000 fine. So if you just have 2 nanograms in your blood system, in your bloodstream, you will be charged $1,000 and sent on your way, just like speeding. Sorry about your luck. You broke the law. You knew you broke the law. That's it. Here's a $1,000 charge. You knew what it was before you got in the car, and you got in the car anyway. Tough luck. Okay? Quote, with 2 nanograms, it's not a criminal offense. It's a summary offense, Murray said. You're not fingerprinted, so it would not show up on a CPIC, that's Canadian Police Information Center. It wouldn't show up on an employment check or a passport application. Sorry, that would not show up on an employment check or a passport application. In an analysis statement with the draft legislation, Ottawa said that this low offense is, quote, not directly linked to impairment, but rather is based on precautionary or crime prevention approach. Yes, crime prevention of, we want $1,000, please. That's the crime prevention. I think the crime is being committed against the driver there. I'm not impaired, but you want me to give you $1,000? Why? Okay. Back to the article, 5 or more nanograms. If you have 5 nanograms or more, it gets more serious. Just like if you're caught with a blood alcohol concentration, BAC over 0.08. It's a hybrid offense, and depending on the seriousness, you could face a fine and jail time. The maximum penalty for a criminal offense would be 10 years. This level of THC is, quote, expected to cause some driving impairment, the statement said. And the impairment discussion comes into this a little bit, but we're talking specifically about how the laws work and the penalties, and I'm going to talk about the medical marijuana exemptions, because there is an exemption. If you are a medical marijuana patient in Ontario, these impairment tests can't be done. They don't apply. Okay, or you would have to do an impairment test, but it would have to be the old impairment test, the roadside impairment test. Okay, anyway, back to this. This is the justice.gc.ca, link is in the description, and these are the penalties for drug-impaired driving. So, quote, new summary conviction offense, 2 nanograms, NG, but less than 5 nanograms of THC per milliliter of blood, maximum $1,000 fine. The new hybrid offense, 5 nanograms or more of THC per milliliter of blood, or any detectable level of LSD, psilocybin, psilocybin, I don't know that one, sorry, ketamine, PCP, cocaine, methamphetamine, 6-mAM, and then the last one is 5 milligrams per pound of GHB. I don't actually know what that is. For the first offense of any of those, it's a mandatory $1,000 fine. Second offense is mandatory minimum of 30 days imprisonment. The third offense is third and subsequent offenses is mandatory minimum 120 days in prison. Okay, and then there's another summary hybrid offense, 50 milligrams of alcohol per 100 milliliters of blood and 2.5 nanograms or more of THC per milliliter of blood. For the first offense, that's $1,000. Second offense, it's 30 days in prison. Third offense, 120 days. So if you smoke marijuana and drink, or if you're a medical patient and you have a daily regiment that you follow, which that is exactly what a medical patient does. They have a daily gram use, and they use it through the day, just like any other medication. So you would definitely be higher than that. So going to prison. So, and then if that person who is a medical patient goes then for a drink on a Saturday night or something like that, and then drives, they could be charged much higher if they're outside of Ontario. Okay, and then the testing, man, the testing is a whole video all by itself. Just with the flaws in detecting impairment and with the test itself and having to send away to a laboratory to detect the levels that they're talking about. So like 2 nanograms is not detectable at a roadside test. 5 nanograms is detectable at a roadside test. And higher up levels are detectable. And then the smaller that you're looking for, you have to take it to a laboratory test, right? So you have to send in to make sure that it's accurate. So, man, there are some big flaws, and some other people are talking about this too, but not too many. So medical marijuana users fear impaired driving laws once cannabis is legal. Yeah, there's a reason for this. So this person here is 39-year-old Jamie. Doesn't really matter his last name. His name is Jamie, and he's living his best life ever after discovering medical marijuana in 2014. Man, I hear you. It's great. The father of 3 from Prince Albert's now says he's worried that he'll be robbed of his reclaimed independence in fulfilling work that requires some driving once recreational cannabis becomes legal, since the standing THC levels in his system could land him in serious trouble with the law if he's caught behind the wheel. Quote, my nanograms are always going to be way over, he explained, anywhere from 25 to 80 nanograms at any given time, but I'm not intoxicated at all. That's 40 times higher than the threshold set out by the Canadian government. Drivers with a THC level of 2 nanograms could face a fine of $1,000, we just heard that, whereas 5 nanograms could lead to criminal charges and jail time, we just heard about that. Back to the article, quote, medicinal users, because of the amounts and quantities they use, may be a higher THC level than a recreational user that is showing signs of impairment, says Saskatoon-based defense lawyer Brian, whose last name I can't pronounce. Quote, while they're showing no signs of impairment and are in fact not impaired at all. Okay, so again, link will be in the description. So I wanted to link this in the description as well. This is a link to all of the provinces and territories, laws and regulations as they stand. I'm not going to talk about this page very much. Here's an opinion piece about Vancouver and British Columbia's impaired driving laws. I'm not going to get into this very much, but I'm linking to it to anybody who's interested. Please look into it and let me know if it's helpful. I hope that it is. Here's a National Post article from not too long ago. It was from March 26, 2018, that says, how much cannabis could you smoke and stay under the proposed legal limit for driving? The answer may be 0. And yeah, the answer is pretty much 0. If you intend to ever have a drink and drive after having a drink, you are risking being literally thrown in jail. Under the current laws, the way that they're structured, things would not go well for you if you were unaware of how serious the laws are, did not have a medical license or medical prescription, and went driving and smoking marijuana. Now again, please do not ever drive impaired. It was an awful idea. Don't do that. But consider this. This is the fact that marijuana is legal may not protect you from spending a long time in jail because driving is not legal. You may have to choose between driving or consuming marijuana. And that wasn't part of Justin Trudeau's plan. That wasn't part of the pitch, I don't think. So I've been talking all video about medical patients and why they may have an exception. They do have an exception. So this is an article that is published in cannabislifenetwork.com. So thank you guys for doing the hard work. I wish I found your article earlier. So, quote, I'll read it. Medicated while driving, medicinal cannabis patients get a break under Bill 174. What's Bill 174? Well, the short version is, for all the medical cannabis patients rightfully worried about being thrown in jail for driving while medicated, there's good news, at least for those who live in Ontario. Bill 174, aka the Cannabis, Smoke-Free Ontario and Road Statute Law Amendment Act, contains important amendment to Ontario's Highway Traffic Act. And the Act states, and I'm going to show you the PDF of the Act, but here's what it says with regards to driving with marijuana. Quote, exceptions are made to the rules respecting driving with a drug in the body if a police officer is satisfied that the driver is legally authorized to use the drug for medical purposes. So that's pretty straightforward. And here it is in the actual bill. All of the provisions, and again, link is in the description, please have a look. But this is Schedule 4, Amendment to the Highway Traffic Act. This schedule amends the Highway Traffic Act regarding driving with alcohol or drugs present in the body as follows. And there are 4 schedules laid out. I'm not going to read them all out, but number 3 is the exception I just read out with respect to medical patients. So if a police officer is satisfied that you are legally authorized to use the drug for medicinal purposes, then you won't have a problem with the medical marijuana side of things. So it is something to consider, to take into account. Here's a link to Bill 174 on Ontario legislature, ontario.ca laws, statutes. Again, link will be in the description if you want to download the PDF and look for yourself. And again, the link to this PDF, and this is the Bill 174, Legislative Assembly of Ontario. It was given royal assent on December 12th. So there you go. It is law of the land. I don't know about the rest of Canada, but I think the rest of Canada is basically looking at, if you smoke marijuana, it will not be legal to drive if you want to stay out of jail or from paying $1,000 fines to the government whenever they decide to pull you over and test your saliva or your blood. Because there's one last thing that I'll point out, and it's if they test your blood and your blood has 10 or 20 times, like our friend, like our medicated friend here who had sorry, wrong one. Yep. Who had 40 times higher than the threshold, like, he would be vilified. Impaired man attempting to work while driving under the influence of THC. If you've been paying any attention to the CBC's coverage of marijuana, you'll see marijuana is the worst thing you could possibly ever do. Never mind that, alcohol and fentanyl are much, much worse scourges on planet Earth at this point in time. My goodness, the coverage has been awful. But protect yourselves, guys. A little bit of knowledge is power. If you have a prescription for pain, if you have a prescription for anything to that effect, medical marijuana is something to look into. And don't ever drive impaired. Be safe out there, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.